We're back.
We're back.
We're going to talk about the economy, what we're seeing, and also our business and how we are being affected by the current economy, right? And so why don't you open it up? Where do you want to start?
Okay. Well, we're hearing all these statistics about the economy, how it's not doing good. People are concerned. Investors holding on to their money. And you actually get kind of like the two extremes because the stock market supposedly has been outperforming. So, but what do you and I see on the streets?
Right.
Okay, what do you and I see in our business, which is real estate? Okay, and let that contrast to what the economy is doing. So what we are seeing, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but one of the things is inventory is climbing. Okay, so there are a lot more properties on the market for sale and more coming. Okay, the other thing we're seeing is that listings are taking longer to sell, and that's helping in the increase of the inventory. Okay, but listings are not moving as fast as they used to. Okay, so those two things are important. Another thing we're seeing is prices. The sellers are willing to take a reduction now more than a few months back. Okay, so there's a reduction in price. Not a lot in our areas, but there are portions of the United States like Texas and Florida. I'm seeing some reduction in prices over $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of scary. And if you look outside our area like Las Vegas, Nevada, there's a lot of reduction in prices there too. But not California is, I don't see that major stuff reduction happening. But there are, it is more flexible.
Yeah, it depends the area. But yeah, these properties that are priced in the millions of dollars, they might be taking several $100,000 of reduction. But they're also priced, so the percentage that they're reducing, let's say 100,000, might not be that big of a percentage reduction. The other thing is business owners that we know, friends that have businesses, friends that are in construction. Construction has slowed down. In Southern California, and for like residential and renovations. And I think that has partially to do with the tightening of the belt, where people are maybe not spending as much on a renovation or holding off on that. It could also be we're entering the holidays as that business slows down. But one of my friends in construction who leads a team and everything said that they have sent them home for some days and they just don't have all the work right now. They're doing a lot of bids, but they don't have all that much work.
Right. There's a lot of bidding going out on different jobs, but people are not moving on them, so there isn't a lot of work. So your friend has to send some of his crew home.
Right.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Businesses are feeling the... it depends the business. Like I'm telling you, over the weekend, I saw a restaurant that was booming. So it was a Mexican restaurant that's not that new. It's relatively new, and it was booming. So it's just interesting to see where people are choosing to spend their money. But we see it because some of the properties that we're negotiating or listings that we have, they're not moving as quickly.
No.
They're not selling as fast.
Correct.
With a tremendous amount of marketing. And also it could be like you mentioned, where some sellers are finally getting to a point where they're willing to drop their price.
Right.
But they hadn't been.
Now, we're in California, of course, and so I think that there's a disconnect between the sellers and what's actually happening in the market.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to hit people, eventually, here soon, I would say by the first quarter of 2026. But there's a lot of stuff. You and I also are doing things that we didn't do before. Like we just showed a building to a prospective buyer, or one of our investors, that building was falling apart. When have you and I shown a building that is falling apart to an investor? Now, I know the investor was very, very interested in the area, but we went over there and there was a hole in the ceiling. The hole in the ceiling was like 3 feet by 4 feet in one place. And then, lo and behold, I walk into the other room and there's another hole in the ceiling. What, another 3 feet by 2 feet? And you can see it. So, and you know, negotiating on a building that's falling, it's not falling apart, okay, but it's got 2 major holes in the roof. That's going to need a new roof no matter what. And depending on,
yeah,
that's $30,000 maybe. I don't know, maybe a little bit less, but, and we're showing these things, you know.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. We're, one of the things that's also happening is the Federal Reserve is going to meet again this week. Everybody's expecting for them to drop the rates, because that's a big portion of the movement in real estate. You know, if the interest rates are really high, people are not going to refinance, or people maybe are not going to purchase. And so, I mean, the statistics are there that about the people that have rates under 3%, it's a big percentage. It's in the 30%.
Yeah.
And then you have people that have rates under 5%, and it's like, what is it? Close to 70%?
Something like that, yes.
So anyways,
68.
people are in, a good chunk of people have low rates, and then a good chunk of people, low interest rates, and a good chunk of people don't have, they can't move, because if they sell and then they end up getting a significantly higher rate, it doesn't make sense for them sometimes.
Well, you know, the other thing that came up on one of the researches that I was doing is that property taxes are taking a big chunk, you know, nowadays of your household income, and also insurance.
Sure.
So those two have substantially climbed. I think that insurance has climbed something like 20% on average. In some cases more. So, you know, I told you that, you know, on a simple fourplex that I own, I started paying like $4,000
a year
when I bought it, and now I'm at $9,200 for a simple fourplex. It's not a place that is falling apart. We take good care of the properties we have. And because of the age of the building, it fell out of favor with these particular companies. And so I've gone from $4,000 a year to $9,200 a year.
Yeah.
That's $5,200 more, right?
Yeah, so insurance could be a reason why people have to sell. Property taxes could be another reason.
Yes.
American Disability Act, where there's a lawsuit on a building. We've seen that recently. And they just decide instead of fixing it, they're just going to sell.
That's right.
Because they don't have the money to fix it.
Correct.
So these are different situations why people in this economy are selling.
Right. And then, you know, you're looking at, I'm looking at some of the different stats, right? The credit card debt in this country is at 1.2 trillion. Apparently is the highest that has been in almost like 25 years. So Americans are getting more and more into debt on their credit cards. And you know, they're saying, hey, the economy is doing really good. Some of the people that are in the know are saying, hey, the economy is doing good, you know. The stock market is doing good, this is this, the inflation is this. But the reality is that you see a lot of people tightening their belts. You really, truly do. And affordability is affordability for a young couple is at an all-time low. Okay? It's very difficult for a young couple in California to buy a property unless you go way out into the suburbs. So affordability is low. I think it's low in Florida. It's, you know, unless you go to the Midwest kind of thing. Property there is still available, okay, at decent prices. But you're looking at an overall picture, and the indices are telling us, be careful what you spend your money on. Try to save as much as you possibly can, because everybody's a little leery about what 2026 may bring. Now, I know that you and I always say we create our own economy, okay? And there's a lot of truth to that. And that's why we go out there constantly, continuously. We will not fail. We'll talk to, if we don't talk to 100 people, we'll talk to 200. We'll talk to 300. We'll do whatever it takes to continue moving this ship forward, okay? But there's some people out there that are hurting a lot.
Absolutely.
They're hurting.
And also job insecurity. Maybe they haven't been laid off yet. But again, talking to people at parties over the weekends, family members, friends, there's a lot of people that they feel insecure in the position that they're in. And
there's been a lot of jobs that people have lost. A lot of people have lost their jobs because of artificial intelligence. It's kicked in and continues to.
Yeah, it's kind of like the first phase of it.
Right.
Of replacing people.
And if you look, go ahead.
No, it's concerning, because what move are you gonna make if you think you're gonna be out of a job in a year? Are you gonna purchase an investment property? Are you gonna purchase a home? Unless you have a huge reserve, unless you have another income, you're gonna think twice about it. Yeah. But when you feel that things are good at work, you're getting promoted, you feel secure, then you make those investments and you spend. So that's it's also a concern, because they haven't been laid off yet, but the writing's kind of on the wall, you can say.
Right. And so the answer is no. You're not buying nothing. You're going to be concerned. If you're married and you have kids, you need to put food on the table. That's going to be your major concern.
Yep.
You want to keep a roof over their heads too. So, yeah, you're going to tighten up, and whatever money you've got, you're going to try to save. You're going to be careful. But look, I was reading also, because looking at the different sides of the economy, this Black Friday and Cyber Monday, they had record sales. Record sales on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Okay? But it's interesting, because there's a company out there, I should have that was looking at how these sales came about. Okay? They're telling us that credit card debt is at an all-time high. Yet Black Friday and Cyber Monday had record sales. You know how a big portion of it was? A big portion of it was on something that's called buy now and pay later. Are you familiar with that?
Are those the 0% interest for a year?
0%. I don't know how it works exactly. Let me give you what I think, and you guys do your own research. But I think that you can get 0% interest for the first 4 months. I think that's how it works. Then after that, you got to start making your
monthly payments.
I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
There may be different programs. I think there's another one that might be 6 months. But what happens is that the interest rate on this thing kicks in between 10 and 36%.
It's a credit card.
Well, yeah.
It's almost like a credit card.
So and then they have fees and late fees and so forth if you fall behind. So God forbid, but this particular company was crediting a lot of or a great portion of the
purchases.
The purchases for Black Friday and Cyber Monday on buy now and pay later. A lot of Americans are doing that. And so you're getting further into debt, right? Because your credit card is at an all-time high. So let's say you're maxed out on that credit card. You have no...
It's just so easy to fall into debt.
Oh.
It's so easy to get a student loan. It's so easy to get a credit card. It's so easy to do this buy now, pay later. And so a lot of the my generation and let's say younger, it's a problem. It's a problem because how are you going to get out of this debt? You're getting into a hole. And if you have the income to make those payments, you might think, well, I just make the payments, I'll be fine. But what if the income somehow is interrupted?
Right.
And now, before you know it, you're neck deep in debt, in high interest debt. It's a problem. Now, one perspective I heard was, well, if you have a lot of equity in your home, you can just tap into the equity and you can pay things off. You're not going to have to sell your home.
Which is happening. The number of refis are increasing, and some people are thinking, look, they're not increasing because they're taking advantage of lower rates. They're increasing because they need that equity money to live on. So you're getting further into debt.
I remember, I'm not saying this is 2007, 2008, but I do remember in that time period, people were pulling mortgages out and buying toys. I remember that was a big thing that I would hear, like, oh, he just pulled out a mortgage and bought a boat. He pulled out a HELOC on his primary residence and bought a vacation home in Havasu, or whatever the case. And then before you knew it, when the market turned, you had borrowed so much on your primary residence that you were underwater.
Yeah. So the message to go out there is be very careful. Be very careful, because there's a lot of signs all you have to do is do a little research. For example, the other thing that came up while I was preparing for this podcast was that the car market is in a world of hurt. In one of the documents that I was reading, it said that there's close to $2 billion of vehicles across the United States in cars sitting on dealerships. Close to $2 billion that haven't been able to sell. Okay? And one of the things that has impacted the car market tremendously is the government was offering a credit for electric vehicle purchases. I think the credit was up to $7,500 or something like that. But that ended in November, at the end of November, beginning of December.
Of this year?
Yeah, so that's no longer happening. So that has impacted the electric vehicle sales. And there, in this article, it was saying, look, dealerships are making more money right now on servicing of the vehicles than on sales of vehicles. And the analogy that they came up with in this particular reading was that people are holding on to their older cars more than ever to try to get every mile out of it, because a new car is in the range of $50,000 to $55,000.
It's ridiculous, yeah.
And so the car market has a lot of analogies with the real estate market. Houses are sitting longer on the market. Cars are sitting longer on the, on the dealership.
On the lot, yeah.
Yeah. The rates, they're higher. Interest, the prices are higher because, prices are still high, even though they're coming down in some areas, like I told you, drastically. But, in our areas, they're not coming down all that much. It's a buyer's market. It's no doubt about it, because you have a lot more property to choose from, okay? And they're staying longer, so the sellers are beginning to. But the same thing's happening with cars, to a certain extent. Now, it's easier to buy a car than to buy a house, okay? But still, a brand new car for $50,000, $45,000, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you don't start with a car that expensive. Maybe you reconsider. These are all things to factor in. I think really taking a step back and assessing where you're spending your money. I'm doing this, where am I spending money? what are just payments that are on automatic that I've over the years picked up that, you know, are things I'm not using as much anymore, or really I don't use anymore. What is it? Memberships or annual fees and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to really do that, because if not, if we don't do that every so often, before you know it, you've got all these extra payments that you didn't realize you had taken on.
And it's interesting, you know, preparing for our podcast, you read all kinds of different stuff, right? Something that I would have never thought of is, you know, the affordability index it's really bad. The affordability is down tremendously, especially for young couples. So one of the results of that, you know, the article was saying you're going to have young couples having less kids. So couples are you know, they can't even afford to buy a property, so they can't move into a house and have a kid to raise and so forth. So you're going to see, as a result of the affordability index being so bad, that young couples are going to, you know, not have as much children moving forward.
We're seeing it already.
It's very interesting, Mike.
I mean, if I just look at my peers, people I graduated with, I'm 35.
Okay.
And so, yeah, there's a lot of friends, acquaintances that have not had families yet. And also, you know, that could be also cultural. There's less importance given to family, more on career and earning potential, and less on the value of having kids.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's multiple things there. But then the other reality is that people are thinking, well, how expensive is it? You know, when you have a child, you have to make sure there's diapers, insurance, food, everything for that. Schooling. You know, what if you want to send them to private school?
Right.
You know, do you think private school is better than public school? Do you think that homeschooling? I met somebody the other day that his homeschooling, his wife is homeschooling their child. And I said, oh, how's that going? And he said, well, it's a charter program here in Los Angeles County or locally. And he said, the school gives you, like, I guess, some sort
curriculum?
of stipend.
Oh.
Some sort of funding.
Oh.
For you to take the child and maybe do different things that pertain to their education. I don't know, field trips or what. Even supplies and things like that. So it's different. People are looking at different ways to raise their child and educate their child. You know, but are you going to promote, and I think this is a topic for another video, but are you going to push your child or grandchild to go to a university where they're going to come out owing, they're going to be slaves to a major hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, you know, in student loans? Or are you going to have them work while they're doing the education so that they don't fall into so much debt? What are you going to promote for the future children, grandchildren, because these are the realities. A lot of the problems that we have today, even if you're a high income earner, you're making six figures, maybe a husband and wife making six figures each. Yeah, but how much do they have in debt? Are there student loans, hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans? So it's a big problem, because all of these things, you know, you talk about credit card debt.
Yeah, it's at an all-time high.
We haven't even talked about student loan debt.
No.
And for a period of time, it was postponed, the payments on student loans. Now I think that they started up again. So remember all that talk that they were going to forgive student loans?
Yeah, they started up again.
So anyways, these are all things to take in. I think that if we can leave a message if there's anything else you wanted to add, but I think a message is just, like you say, tighten the belt. Be more disciplined with our spending. I think really that's what we have to do, and continue to try to generate income and revenue.
try to, if you can learn a new skill to be like a side hustle to what you currently have.
Sure.
If you feel that if you feel threatened that your job might not be there 6 months from now because of AI or whatever reason, because there's a lot of companies laying off people.
Yep.
A lot of layoffs. And we haven't even touched on inflation. But inflation is chewing up that silent.
How much is a cup of coffee now?
Yeah.
So you go somewhere, a coffee shop, in here in LA, you could easily spend $8, $7 on a cup of coffee.
Yeah, where this company, I'm not gonna say the name, just came up with a coffee protein drink or whatever. You know who I'm talking about, right? Okay.
No.
And so I think it's a protein drink, a protein powder that's put on the coffee, and because of that, they're paying, whoever buys that is going to pay, I think, close to $7 for that coffee.
Mm.
And you and I are coffee drinkers. We love coffee. We go to all the new shops and wherever we have a listing, we're gonna go to that coffee place. And
yeah, but we'll share a cup of coffee now. We've done it before.
There's a lot of people moving back with their parents. The article touched on that.
Yeah.
A lot of people moving back with their parents.
It makes sense if you can figure out a way to cut off the hemorrhage. We were talking about a gentleman that we know that is hemorrhaging every month because unfortunately they've taken on a loan on a property that is not generating any revenue, any income, and it's been vacant for a long time.
And the loan it's
a commercial building, and it's a complicated situation, but every month they're taking from their business, which is generating revenue, to pay that loan on that property that's not generating revenue.
Yeah, he's carrying that property on his own because there's no tenant in it and it's vacant and it's hurting.
Yeah. So I think reassess the situation that you're in. I'm doing that. Try and figure out ways to cut unneeded spending. Figure out ways to pay debt more aggressively and save. Try not to get into more debt if you don't have to.
And remember, nothing lasts forever. So if you're in a good situation right now, count your lucky stars and your blessings, okay? And if you're in a situation where you've been laid off or you're having difficulties or, you're having trouble meeting the expenses that you have, your payments, just remember that you're going to get through it. Nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
So you're going to work through it like we all have at one point in our lives, Yep. So, yeah.
All right.
All right.
We'll wrap it up then. It's a good positive ending.
Yeah.
Thank you.